A judge has now set bond at $1 million for the driver accused of ramming her car into this parade at an Oklahoma State homecoming over the weekend. Police say Adacia Chambers was the one driving Saturday. She killed those 4 people, including a 2-year-old boy. 47 other people were injured. 4 of them are critical. Questions have been raised about whether Chambers was intoxicated or mentally ill at the time. Just before her court hearing, both her father and boyfriend revealed that she does have a history of mental illness.
I know that there's no way she was drunk or impaired. Yeah, no drugs whatsoever. She just wasn't that type of person.
That's just not who she was. That's not who I raised. And she had a mental hospital she went to in Wagner at one time. They had her for a couple of weeks and they released her and said there's really nothing else they could do for her.
Now, Chambers was initially charged with DUI, but prosecutors said they plan to file murder charges against her in the future. I have with me our legal analyst, Sonny Hostin, and Philip Holloway. So let's get to it, Sonny, with you. First, they delayed filing official charges for another couple of weeks. Why?
Yeah, my understanding is that there is still a victim in the hospital, and that person is not doing
sort of touch
that
and
well.
go.
It's touch and go, and so prosecutors are still, I'm sure, investigating this case. As we just heard, there are so many issues. We're talking about mental illness, possible DUI, possible intent, because the prosecutor said today, Brooke, which was shocking to me, they thought she intentionally drove into the crowd. That is a very big distinction in the law when you're talking about manslaughter, which is, not an intent crime, and homicide second degree. I mean, that is pretty significant. So I think the prosecutors are weighing all options, but this is going to be a very, very serious case against her.
Let me come back to intent, because that's a huge point you're making. But
Yeah.
Philip, here's where I'm confused, because she faces this DUI charge, but her defense attorneys say she wasn't drunk. Which was it?
Well, we just don't know yet, Brooke, because the toxicology has yet to come back from the crime lab. I understand they've asked for it to be expedited. So that is probably a large part of the reason that prosecutors are going to wait a few more weeks to decide what formal charges they're going with. Now, to Sonny's point, if I might mention this, I agree with her. This is a much more sinister allegation now that there was some purposefulness behind this act, and the upgrading to murder charges is surprising to me. I was expecting something along the lines of manslaughter, but not murder. But second-degree murder, Brooke, does not require any kind of purposefulness. It doesn't require, in fact, it specifically excludes an intentional act or an intent to kill someone. That would be murder in the first degree in Oklahoma. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to why, on the one hand, they're saying it was purposeful, yet they're using second-degree murder.
What about also the fact that the attorney says he was flagged to her mental state? You heard her father talking about how she was in and out of some mental hospital. Flagged to her mental state because she had no emotion when she was told that she killed 4 people?
And quite frankly, any of us that have been prosecutors or in law enforcement, we've dealt with what we call EDPs, emotionally disturbed people, and that is typically, quite frankly, one of the responses, that sort of flat affect.
Wow.
And so again, I think this investigation will uncover a lot of details about this woman. We've now heard from her family. They're saying she does have a history of mental illness, and it's something, Brooke, you and I speak about all the time. Bottom line is the criminal justice system is ill-prepared to deal with defendants that suffer from mental illness. Was she legally insane? That's such a high threshold, high bar. No one, very rarely do people meet that threshold. But when you talk about mental illness and someone committing a crime, our justice system just hasn't caught up. You want
to jump in on that, Philip? And also just speaking of the fact, bond set at $1 million.
Right. They don't expect her to get out. That's not a bond anybody can make. Sonny's entirely correct. The criminal justice system is very, very ill-equipped to deal with people with mental illness. I'm not talking about necessarily people that are criminally insane that rise to that level, but just people who have mental illness in general. The criminal justice system does a terrible job. Her affect following the crash, you got to consider, if you look at the photographs, you see the airbag deployed. It probably hit her right in the face or in the upper torso, and sometimes those things can cause a concussion. So the way that she was acting in the hours and minutes immediately after the crash could possibly be related to the airbag deployment.
Okay, that's fair. Sonny Hostin, Philip Holloway, thank you both so much. We'll stay on that one for sure. Straight ahead.